Situation.
All right, 3, 2, 1, we're live.
This is the Horsepower Hour.
Yes, hello and welcome to another Horsepower Hour. I am always your host, Andy Emhoff. A few drinks in tonight, by the way. Joining me as always is the Honorable, the Admiral, the Captain, the Emperor of the Universe. I don't know if that's necessarily, I think that's an honorary title.
It's known universe.
Known universe.
There may be other emperors that we haven't discovered yet.
Doctor, again, honorary title. F. Coy Fortiscus, Sin Masterson, Junior, Senior Esquire, Duke of Earl Grey. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing superb.
I'm glad you made it. I didn't know if you'd make it, man.
Yeah. I had power back at my house. I know people in Texas had it worse than me, but there was a micro ice storm here as well.
Yeah.
I was without power from Friday morning to Wednesday night, bro.
Would you say that overlanding kind of saved your bacon?
Well, at least camping.
Yeah.
I did cook on all my camping stuff and
Sure.
had heaters and all the accoutrement to camp inside my own house.
But you made it. You're here, baby.
I'm here. Yeah.
Coy just recently partook of some ribs that I made. I've been practicing with my competition style ribs. And what do you think?
They were perfect. You've nailed it. Now
Yes.
you just have to keep replicating that.
Crap.
That's where the magic lies.
Now, well,
Replicate that on demand.
that's not going to happen. Come on. What is going to happen is us talking to one of my favorite people and an amazing guest that we're going to have. Jhae, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. So excited to be here. So excited.
And from the Hard Parking Violations podcast, which I love. We were just talking about how we listen to it, right, Coy?
Yeah.
Stop it, you liar.
If you really listen to it, you know it's called the Hard Parking Podcast.
Oh, your Facebook group is Hard Parking Violations.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, man, like I said, I'm glad to be here. Excited. I'm wondering what that little magic stick thing is on the. Is that part of the background? Is that literally in front of you? Yeah, that thing. What's going on there?
Ooh, I got bad news for you. This is a highlighter left over from one of my podcast clients using the studio.
It looks like some sort of a magical. It's like doing some weird shit.
Yeah. The green screen is it's not quite green, but it's close enough. The green screen's kind of believe in it.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy. I like that. I gotta get me a
Only
highlighter.
I could suck on it and produce a little smoke, you know?
This
That'd be
is
awesome.
actually that's how we judge show cars. If it's higher than this off the ground, automatic fail.
Done. Yeah, no limbo, no
As
nothing.
you can see, this isn't a quantum, state of perpetual. There, it isn't there. You don't scratch the paint when you try to slide it under the car.
Keep
Exactly.
stroking the thing like that. I'm gonna have to turn the
Yeah, they're-
camera off here for a
They're
minute.
really expensive.
So, Jhae, first and foremost, I mean, you are a car guy through and through, right?
Sure.
Let's tell people a little bit about where you're at, how you got your start. What's your backstory, my friend?
Sure. Well, I've loved cars as long as I can remember. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a car guru. My family would disagree, but it's all about relativity, right? So if you really want to listen to some really cool car stuff, that's what the Horsepower Hour is for. If
My
you want to
man.
listen to some like skimming information and then a deep dive into society and culture, because I don't really know shit about cars, that's what the Hard Parking Podcast is for.
You know, it's funny. There's a lot of guys out there that are car guys, like truly car guys. We're going to use our friend, not the intern, Jake, as an example. He doesn't really know that much about cars, but man, he's an aficionado of vehicles. He loves them. He loves everything about them, and he appreciates every single one, but he doesn't know like a whole ton about them.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think for the people who aren't into cars at all, we're all the same person,
Mhm.
right? So if I'm at the job, like most of the people that I work with have no idea what I'm into. No, I do healthcare IT. And so I've learned over the years, don't tell anybody anything about you because they don't give a shit anyway. But once they start asking questions, I'm like, yeah, I do car stuff. I go to car shows sometime. They're like, oh, really? My husband is really into cars. Like, what do you have? And I say, oh, I just have an old 97 Acura. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, okay. And if they just leave it at that, then they have no interest. But if they're like, really, what kind? And then you tell them it's an NSX, then the conversation starts to scale on. But if they start asking me, okay, is it a C30, C32, blah, 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 I'm like, well, it's a C32B, but stop with the engine questions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my level.
Listen, I'm going to just put up real quick on the live stream what you used to be working with. This isn't the wrap you have in your car anymore, but it is what was on there before. If you guys want to check out what Jay has going on right now, you have to go and check out the Hard Parking podcast. And again, Hard Parking Violations on Facebook is the group. Let's go ahead and peek behind the scenes here, my friend. Oop, I got to pull that up. Sorry. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
You got to tell me what the inspiration was behind this vehicle, my friend.
Look at that. So when I was a child, I really liked Robotech. Okay. And this is kind of an asshole story, but over the years, as I got my NSX, I would go to the car shows and I'd look around, I'd see cars, that had some sort of military wrap, whether it was a Warthog or it was sort of a bomber, something. And I would look at them and I'd say, wow, that's pretty cool. But man, I think I could do better. And I'm like super technical. So I'm like, that's not right. And that's not right. And I wouldn't put that. That doesn't make any sense. So when I decided to actually wrap the car, I was like, well, I'm going to do a fighter jet. And I'm going to see if I can get into SEMA. But I didn't want to do just any fighter jet. So I decided to do the Robotech or the Macross Valkyrie Robotech Veritech. And I pitched it to a few friends, did a really rough kind of design in Photoshop, and they loved it. And I took it to the next level. Once I got accepted into the SEMA, it was full steam ahead. And so it's kind of like you're living the dream. Because when I was in high school, I saw the NSX for the first time, fell in love with the car. And then, of course, before high school was Robotech. So now, for a while, for a few years, I was driving my dream car and I was a Veritech pilot. So that was kind of the inspiration. But I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted to try to be as detailed as I could. So I would go places. I probably had 500 images saved on my computer. Not the porn. That's a different. But as far as like that's the different folder, the different bank. And then I'd go places and I would visit like Air and Space museums. I would get up on, if I could get up on an F-14, because that's what the Veritech is loosely based off of, I would. And I'd get really close and I'd take photos and I'd say, that's what that is. Okay. And then I have a good friend down in down in Tucson with another NSX, a retired Air Force pilot. In fact, he was a captain. And remember the movie? Well, so forget that movie, but let's go to like Transformers.
Yeah.
They'd have those. So he flew that. So they did several movies. That was his squadron. But anyway, in his closet, he has an Aces 2 ejection seat that he's turned into a rocking chair. So I drove down there and spent a couple hours with him, and he was just showing me around the rocking chair. So I wanted to make sure it was not necessarily the most realistic, but in a sense, the most accurate at the time fighter jet wrapped car, and made sure every single millimeter of that wrap was designed around the body of the NSX, which is, F-16, semi F-16 inspired. So that was kind of the story of that wrap.
Man, that's awesome. I love that. And I mean, listen, who here doesn't like the Macross saga or any of the mech animes? Like, come on, Koi, you famously have talked about how you want to pick up one of the mech fighter, not VR, but like almost pseudo VR arcade games, right?
Yeah, Virtual On.
Yes.
I've famously said there's a scene in Avatar where the mech jumps out of like the falling, I don't know, hovercraft spaceship thing. My problem is if I were ever in that situation, I'd be like, I have to do that. I would turn around and shoot my own craft so I could jump out of the back into the jungle. I'd be like, sorry, guys. I know some sacrifices are being made here. I'm willing to make those with your lives, but I'm going to do this cool move from a movie.
Yeah.
And then I would fire a rocket into my own plane.
Have bad news. And then he would just fire a rocket into the ship, and they'd be like, what's the good news? And as he's falling through the floor, all these guys falling to their death would be just like, what's the good news? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Jay.
We all like mechs.
Yes, we do. Anything mechanically done to the NSX, or have you left it pretty much stock?
Oh, no, that thing. So it's got a stock bottom end, but it's a single turbo Garrett 3076R, have the flex fuel on there, and 91 pump gas. It's pushing 415 wheel, and on E85 it's 460 wheel. So it's pretty fun.
the funny thing about E85, and I don't know, I mean, I think people really have accepted this now, but especially when E85 first came around, they didn't realize it's basically race gas out of the pump. I mean, honestly, what is it, 112 or 115 octane, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
stuff. You're willing to use twice as much fuel.
This is also true. I once upon a time tuned my all-wheel drive big turbo Protege on E85. I don't know how much horsepower it made, enough to shatter the transmission. That's why I tuned it back down. But eventually that E85 ate through my stock fuel lines. So I decided that no mas. I was going to go back to the regular, just, 93 octane or 92 octane, whatever it is we have here in Oregon. What do we have?
It's 91, I believe, here, isn't it?
We don't have 91, do we? I think we have 92.
I don't know.
Yeah, some places are blessed with 92 and 93. We have 91 out here. And you Protege, are you talking like a little Mazda?
Yeah, that's a story for another time. It was a fully built Mazda Protege. But anyways,
all-wheel drive.
Interestingly, I actually had a guy stop by today because we have our Gambler Ford Festiva parked out back. Dude just randomly stopped by my house and was like, hey, man, I've got some parts for Ford Festivas if you're trying to get that thing back on the road. And I had explained to him, it's running and driving. We're just not driving it right now. It's going to be a Gambler. He's doing a B6T, which is the Mazda 1.6 dual overhead cam turbo motor swap into his Festiva. So it was a good conversation that I had with him. Basically, I'm a Mazda guy. I know a lot about the Mazda turbo cars. And so I was kind of, smashing him with all of the questions that I could possibly ask about it. But it was a good conversation, especially for just some random dude knocking on my door out of the blue.
It's always good when you can have some random conversations, and there's not a lot of, I think, people around that could have that conversation between like a Mazda, like a Protege, and a Ford Festiva. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's my feeling. I mean, I assume you have quite a bit of that when you drive your NSX, right?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
I feel like you have more fanboys around. Oh, bro, this tag is so awesome. A little more of that.
Usually it's like that car's no good. I've played it before in Forza and it's fucking all over the road.
Oh, seriously?
That's usually what you get, You'll get a few people who love the car and appreciate it, but yeah, it's just like, oh, I would take a Super any day over the NSX. NSX is a piece of shit. It's overrated.
Bro, you need an S13 S2000 or 240SX. Because when my wife was driving her 93 240SX, she would have dudes walk up to her, especially once they saw like a good looking woman step out of the car. They were like, hey, you got that car, huh? And wanted to talk to her all about it. And I
want to drift. Let me drift you in the car.
Bingo.
Let's get sideways.
I remember the first
building Shredder on probably, I don't know, a few months ago. And he said, don't do the S13.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what he's, but he says absolutely the S13s, S14s, all that shit. He's just stay away from them. Unless you want a project car on your hands.
They're the new Honda Civic.
They're so expensive now. You want a running driving one, it's $5,000. It's unbelievable.
You got to break into the love seat, not just the sofa for that one.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I like it when you get the random car guy, but I like it even more when I overhear the random car guy like getting shut down. Like I work construction, so not a lot of import dudes in construction, but sometimes I'll hear a guy be like, oh yeah, it's Ford, and I'm like, and you can see the guy like, oh, there you go, and I'm like, I know what you're talking about, bro. Come here. Like I'm your kind of guy. I want to know more about it. That guy doesn't give a crap. I do. Come on.
Yeah, the other guy's eyes are like.
Yeah, and I'm over there like trying to lean in. And I'm like, hey, I know what you're talking about. Hey, come here. Get all creepy and stuff.
Well, you guys need to just understand the lingo. Once you see people that are glazing over while you're talking about your car, all you have to do is say, yeah, I'm preparing for an LS swap.
Oh yeah, yep, you're right. That's like the magic words. Oh, my buddy has a FD with an LS. That's what happens from that point.
Bro, imagine if you told them I've got an NSX and I'm preparing for an LS swap.
I got a better one. I'm going to put an LS in my Mazda Protege.
Yes, my man. That's what I'm talking about. I don't think that's going to be the most reliable thing in the world, which actually brings us to our first topic of the day, boys. You ready for this?
Ready.
So the JD Power 2021 vehicle dependability study. Now, I want to give a brief caveat here. This is based on the 2018 model year of these vehicles because this is a 2-year dependability study. Okay, this is journalists and independent people who have their vehicles and they've reported on it extensively for the last 2 years. That's how they get these ratings for the dependability study. Okay, now it should really come as no surprise that the Lexus is at the top of the list. Should it?
No, I mean, it's Toyota, so
I'm actually surprised Kia is right there too. So they've been doing some wonders. But no, I'm not surprised Lexus is up there.
So yeah, talking about surprise, let's just break this down real quick. Lexus is number 1, Porsche is number 2, which comes as a surprise. Kia is number 3. How is Kia number 3? I am shocked, truly. Toyota's number 4, Buick is number 5, which I find interesting because Buick, of course, now is defunct.
Dun, 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 dun. Catchy. Sorry, I had to do that for the Buick.
The Kias, I kind of actually get why they're where they're at, because I've known people with Kias and they're flawless for like the first 5 years, and then they've soaked up enough UV that just everything explodes.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they make them as a true throwaway car. They're good for the first 5 years, and then they just fall apart.
Interesting. Okay,
It's like 89,000 miles, and all of a sudden, just like problems.
So shouldn't BMW be higher because of that? Because aren't they great for like 3 or 4 years, and then you're just like,
I think this also goes reliability and the price of that reliability. So that means every time you get an oil change in your BMW,
right?
Or you have to replace the plastic impeller water pump for the 19th time.
So right behind Buick is Cadillac in 6th place. Hyundai is in 7th place. I drove my wife's Hyundai Elantra. It's a 2020 Hyundai Elantra today. And I forget sometimes how nice that vehicle is. It's a really, really nice driving car. And so I'm not surprised that it's in the top 10. The Genesis, which is the Hyundai offshoot, like, Lexus is to Toyota or Infiniti is to Nissan. That's what Genesis is to Hyundai. Lincoln, Acura, BMW, and Chevy below that. The one that really surprised me, though, is way, way, way down here. We're talking BMW, Chevy, Mitsubishi, Mazda, Mercedes, Ram, which is different now from Dodge, Mini, Subaru, the company that is known for blowing Ringlands wholesale, Audi, Nissan. What is Nissan doing down here? Are you kidding me right now? Look at how low Nissan is.
You got to remember, this is all the first 2 years. They don't care past that.
And then Ford down here below Nissan. And I have a theory. I'm going to throw this out to you guys. I think part of the reason why Ford is so low on the list is because they are cranking out pickup trucks, vehicles that people use to work with. Give me your thoughts.
So at work, we use, it is 100% Ford F550s, F450s. And yeah, there are some problems with them. It's not too bad, but considering how we drive those and considering the fact that they are loaded to the hilt all the time, pulling at max all the time, like you couldn't drive a car the way we drive these trucks. And you floor it everywhere you go. It's a big diesel. You're pulling a big trailer. You're loaded down. You leave a stop sign. You just ease it to the floor.
Yeah.
Ease it to the floor all the time. So yeah, considering the way they're driven, they're not actually as unreliable as you'd think.
You want that to take 0.6 of a second before it hits the mat.
Yeah. You don't try to do a burnout snap an axle, but you just ease her on down to the floor.
Yeah. And at the floor is where it stays unless you're on the brake.
Yeah, till you get up to speed and then you let off.
Yeah.
No, it's for sure they're not driven nicely.
What do you think, Jay?
Sounds like the backstretch of a race course trying to break in the pads. Yeah, I'm really curious though with all these numbers, and more so Ford, I think, than anybody else on this list. Maybe Ram, but it'd be nice to see that breakdown of. You click that and it just opens up a spider graph of how many, which Ford vehicles are we talking? Because I understand, like if their fleet sales and they're just doing those workhorses, it's like, should it really matter? It's like a regular vehicle. You put your foot down to the gas, and you can go around a test track is multiple times, but no car is really designed to go around multiple times. So I'm wondering, with the Fords, how many of these are like Ford Focus versus the Ford F350 Super Duty, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we know that, they're pumping out hundreds of thousands of some of their bigger vehicles. So with the trucks and like the Explorers, per se, like all those, probably 75% of police departments are buying up these Ford Explorers and just freaking running the hell out of them, chasing people down, So
100%.
it'd be interesting to know exactly what that breakdown is.
The other part I'd like broken down is what is covered under like warranty and recalls,
Right,
and what is coming out of your pocket.
right.
That makes a huge difference to me as well.
Which of these vehicles on this list surprised you, though? I'm going to go ahead and say Honda being so low. It is actually the 6th from the bottom. I'll just go ahead and I'll spoiler alert it here. Land Rover came in absolutely at the bottom. That is the bottom 100%. Alfa Romeo, I didn't even know you can get any Alfa Romeos in the United States, but they are 2nd from the bottom, then Jaguar, then Chrysler.
Jaguar.
Volkswagen comes in 5th from the bottom, which I don't know if I should be surprised or not, honestly. And then Honda is in 6th place. What is that saying about? I mean, Honda has been known for reliability for the last 3 decades.
Yeah, but if you keep blowing a fuse, right, you're still going to get from point A to point B, but you might be annoyed. So I'm wondering if that's included in this dependability study.
Yeah, that is good point. I'd like to see who got towed back to the dealership versus who's scheduled an appointment for 4 weeks.
Damn it. JD Power. We have questions and we need answers. I would say my biggest surprise is actually Tesla. When they're blowing themselves off like every day, all day. And here they are, at 176 rating, that'd be good from 4th to the bottom. That to me, that surprises me.
For me, it's not necessarily surprising because you have to think about the amount of tech that goes into a Tesla. I mean, anything could go wrong on those. The tombstone, basically the touchpad in the center, it has a master computer that runs a dozen other computers that run all the different things on the vehicle. And so anytime you're going to have that much electronics, me coming from an automation engineering background, I can tell you that there are fail safes that will keep the car on the road, but it will keep certain things from operating correctly. And so I'm 100% with you. We need to see a breakdown of what these are. Is it simply a Tesla door handle that doesn't want to come out all the way or won't retract all the way? Or is it a Tesla that left you on the side of the road? It's a big difference.
It is a huge difference. And one vehicle that, because every tool has them, that isn't on this list by volume, or they just said, if you put us on this list, we're going to sue the hell out of you, is I don't see McLaren on here because they would be lower than Land Rover probably.
Sure. It's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really count exotic cars though, because I feel like they're probably going to break down a lot as is. And if you can afford a McLaren,
just a McLaren.
What's that?
Just a McLaren. Nobody else has that problem.
Nobody else has that problem. McLarens are that bad, huh?
They are.
Well, that's good to know because I'll never buy one. I mean, I was never going to buy any of the others as well, but
now you'll make sure to avoid McLaren.
No, I was never going to have enough money to buy one. And
Sure.
I was just saying that.
Is it your money or is it your phallus? I'm just going to throw that out there before I move on. Since we've been talking about Ford being so low in the ratings, I do want to talk quickly. Screw you, CNBC.
Fake news.
Some Texans are using their 2021 Ford F150 hybrid pickups, which is actually not true because the hybrids are not out. So immediately we're debunking this fake news. Real time, F-150 pickup trucks to power homes amid winter storm. What they're, of course, talking about is the Ford F-150 that is available with the Pro Power Boost. That has an onboard battery and generator that produces either 2,200 kilowatts of power or 7,200 kilowatts of power, depending on what package you get. I thought this was interesting because, weeks before this winter storm hit, there was an article, and I want to say it was from Auto Week, but don't quote me on that, about one of the editors using the brand new 2021 Ford F150 with the Power Boost package to power his home. It wasn't because he needed to, it was because he was curious how it would do, because a 7,200 kilowatt generator is a lot. I mean, that is enough, maybe not to power your entire house, but if you've got a refrigerator and a heating system and a few computers and some home lights, that's plenty. You may have to shut off like a deep freezer in the garage or something like that. But at the same time, you've got plenty of power to run everything else. And it turns out there were some people in Texas who were out of power and were able to use their 2021 Ford F-150s for that purpose.
I'm stoked. I think it's cool. I wish I'd had one for my power outage. I would be a little suspect about leaving my truck running in my driveway during a power outage when people are freezing to death. I just come out and see like a broken extension cord and burnout marks.
Right.
I'd be like, hey, my power went out again. What? So I'd be a little worried about that part. Hopefully you have a gated driveway or community.
Sure. Jay, you haven't really had to worry yourself too much with the power outages where you are, but what do you think about the capability of running a home off of your pickup?
I think it's pretty awesome actually in reading that story, and whether or not the hybrids are out, which they're not, but just having that ability, because we think back in cars for a long time, especially big SUVs and pickup trucks have had like the real outlets, like you can almost plug your freaking dryer into your car.
Yeah.
But something like this, I just never really thought about. And I think it's a cool feature, and through this disaster, it's only going to boost sales because it's not like we lose power every day. But what if? I mean, there's been millions of times that, when I lived in Michigan, that we were like, we should go out and buy a generator and just have it on standby in case we lose power. We never bought the generator, but it would have been nice. And here it is in your vehicle. You can power some stuff up and go down the street and pick up a coffee and pick up your groceries, come back and keep the power moving. And you can charge your neighbors. Like I would charge every neighbor. You want me to charge your laptop? $100. How bad do you need to go to work?
Are you kidding me? It's not the laptop. You roll up and be like,
First 30 minutes.
Your freezer and fridge are about to thaw and ruin $500 worth of food in the fridge and half a beef in the freezer.
No, you know why? Because they're record cold temperatures and they're going to be colder than your refrigerators. Just put that shit out in the yard.
That's true. In Texas, you could have done that maybe.
In Texas, if there's no other state. I grew up in Texas, actually. Grew up in Garland, and we lived through some snows, some of those ugly winters, and you build a snowman at 9 a.m. in the morning and he's half dead by 5 in the afternoon. But I think there's a few times that would have come in handy for us at least. So I think it's cool technology, and I think more people are going to jump on board. I mean, why not?
And I think they're missing, and everybody is still missing, a lot of clout factor that you could achieve with this. Because I'm thinking, what can I do that would be awesome? Imagine you go to a race or any kind of event that you like to spectate at. You back the old truck up there. You get out the old 10 by 10 pop up, throw the walls up, cut a hole in the back, have yourself one of those, window AC units sitting on the tailgate, just blasting cold air into your, yeah, baby.
Yeah, you'd be a
here in
for sure.
Arizona.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And I want to point something out. I mean, there are a lot of trucks like the Silverados. They have outlets in their beds or outlets in their cabins right now. As a matter of fact, this comes directly from a conversation that I had with a dude on Facebook this week, where I was talking about these Ford F-150s. And I mentioned specifically people powering their homes with these F-150s. And he goes, yeah, big deal. My Silverado has had that for years. And I said, oh, really? How much power does your Silverado make? And he said 400 watts.
And again, for the viewers and listeners, what is this thing kicking out?
7,200 watts.
So one could run a blender.
Yeah.
And his could run a good size Vitamix.
Sure. Well, no, I would hold off on that.
This could run.
It wouldn't run my KitchenAid.
Well, maybe not, but
still.
Ninja,
the Bullet Ninja, so I can make myself a protein.
Yeah, it will definitely run one of those. See, I have a little plug-in outlet in the back of my FJ, and I have ran an ice cream maker and what is it, the Magic Bullet or whatever blender.
That's
so it'll run a little bit of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can be cool while you're camping, be like, look, I'm making a pina colada. But that's about it. You can run a freaking waffle iron on his.
Yeah.
You can run 7,500 watts would run a normal size chest freezer, your refrigerator, and quite a few of the lights and a TV simultaneously pretty easily.
My heat pump system in my home, we have a 3,300 BTU heat pump system with two heads. One's in the front room, one's in the back room to heat and cool the whole house. That one on startup requires 4,000 watts. So, I mean, theoretically, you could, if you were running it off of this truck, and once it got started up, because the startup, the thing about electric motors is the startup is always higher than what it takes to run, right? So once you start things up, like starting up your fridge or starting up your freezer or starting up your heat pump, once you're beyond that startup load level, then you actually do have that extra capacity to run other things.
Yeah, I had an 1,800 generator, so 1,800. It could run my fridge by itself. That's the one I could run just that. And when it kicked on, that poor generator, I mean, yeah. I would be like,
come on, baby, come on,
big guy, come on, you got this, you know. And once in a while, it just die, and I have to do it again. I'll be like, all right, buddy, you know, I'm rubbing it. You've done a good job. I know you're an old Honda generator, but I just need a couple more days out of you. All right.
Yeah.
Now you can do this. Here's a little high octane. It would run my freezer. I could run the lights and I could run my TV, but I could run the fridge or the freezer by themselves.
Right.
And then once those were charged up, I could kill it and run some lights and TV. I couldn't run all that at once. A 7,500 watt, you can run a lot of stuff at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to ask you if those are Honda generators. I was prepared for you to say no, and then I would have shamed you because you're a Honda guy. But
so I actually have made since I use so many just, 5-horse pull cord engines, I've made a personal rule that I won't buy things that don't have Honda engines because they start so much better than everything else.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's brought great ease to my life when all my stuff starts up with one pull.
It's true. It's true. And I do want to give a quick shout out to a couple of Ford dealerships that I talked to. Robertson Ford here in Albany is one. Kendall Ford, which I bought my truck from in 2017 down in Eugene. I want to shout them out as well. I did give them a call. Feel kind of bad. Let on some salesmen thinking that I was going to be purchasing some new Ford pickups from them. So I apologize to them right now. But I do appreciate all the time that they spent on getting me this information. I'm going to let you know flat out, the Power Boost F-150s, they are hard to come by right now. They can be had in the XL and the Lariat version of the Ford pickup as long as you have the 4-door, the crew cab. It's only available with the crew cab. So if you're going out and you're trying to do a Ford build on their website and get the Power Boost package, you can't do it unless you have 4-door selected. You can't do the club. You can't do the standard door. I had a fella at Robertson Ford in Albany, Zach, do me a favor and price out what it would cost me for a bare bones, very basic, but with a few of the amenities that you know that you would want in an F-150. So it wasn't like completely bare bones, but it definitely was the cheapest F-150 you're going to be able to get with the Power Boost package. Came in right at $49,000. So you definitely can choose this as an option instead of getting yourself a generator. But instead of paying, $700, $800, $900 for a generator, you'll pay $50. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I mean, why not get both?
I like the way this guy thinks. Speaking of, I want to move on to our next topic of the day, boys. SRT Performance Division, known for the Hellcat vehicles, the SRT 4s. I don't know if you knew this or not, Coy. SRT was a lot like Mazda Speed in that it had its own separate division of mechanics and engineers that were working on their own projects. Well, it has been announced. Jalopnik uses the term neutered. I would like to use the term incorporated. Stellantis, who is the parent company of Dodge right now, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, Peugeot, They are
Umbrella Corp is another term. Yeah.
Umbrella Corp.
Right.
That's a good one. They are taking the engineers from SRT and they are redistributing them into all of their other engineering endeavors. And a lot of people are concerned because now we don't have specific race engineers working on these performance vehicles. I'm not sure what to think. It has been happening for a while. The last 9 months, they've been redistributing these engineers. And so Dodge is trying to use the latest Hellcat and Demon as proof that they are not going to be getting rid of their performance-minded vehicles. However, you have to, and by the way, it's okay if you do think once these engineers go over into other places, the bean counters are really going to dilute their vision. What do we think, Coy?
Well, I mean, it's honestly gone. It's going to phase out because obviously the Hellcat engine is still around. They can just shove this power plant into multiple platforms and we're all like, oh my God, SRT. Once we kind of start getting to end of life in these engines, nobody's there to make the next super engine, So I honestly see the SRT badge becoming a joke basically in the next 10 years.
Really?
I mean, if you don't have a dedicated team of race engineers to make your super race engines, who's going to?
So the SRT may become just a trim level badge.
I honestly think it'll just be trim level and V8 package. It's not going to be it's not going to be what it is now.
Jay, what do you think?
So what I'm looking at here on the drive is, and I think the drive.com, I'm not a big Jalopnik fan. But it sounds like everybody is still there for the most part. And, every once in a while, these organizations, they kind of go through and they kind of reshuffle their naming. One of the things the original article was saying is before SRT, they were all working on this project or they're working on the Viper project. And so for the most part, everyone is still there. I don't think they're really going to stop producing stuff. They're just going to maybe stop calling it the same thing. They're going to find ways to make the V6s more badass, I guess. And I don't know if that's kind of a contradictory term, but I guess it's kind of the way the world's moving. Like, are we going to take an SRT motor and drop it into every single vehicle like they do now, which we all love? Maybe not, but I think they might just kind of narrow it down a little bit. And but I don't think from a productivity, from a badassery aspect, we're going to see that much of a change. I mean, it all kind of remains to be seen. But I'm not really that worried. The sky is not falling yet, I don't think.
I'm going to throw just a monkey wrench into what you're saying. This was the end of January. The CEO of Dodge, Tim Kuniskis, said the days of the iron block supercharged 6.2 liter V8 are numbered. They are absolutely numbered because of all the compliance costs, but the performance that those vehicles generate is not numbered. So I think the implication here is that they're moving towards more efficient platforms, okay, right. More efficient engines, but of course it's not about just the engine, it's about the platform in total. The Hellcat, notoriously heavy, right? So moving towards performance-minded vehicles. I think for me personally, I think that some of this is just simply pandering to the audience and saying, hey, we may not have the V8, but we're still going to be performance-minded. However, if that performance-mindedness means that we're going back to the SRT4 Nitro, I don't know how happy we're going to be with that.
My thing is, maybe we won't lose SRT4, and I'm sure there'll be a twin turbo V6 or something that'll probably be pretty awesome. But I do feel like, what's that?
Not going to sound as good.
It's not going to sound as good.
Well, it'll sound like a vacuum cleaner, just like the Ford EcoBoost motors,
right?
Which I don't have a lot of problem with. But the magic in Dodge's SRT4 as of the last few years has been that snort a row of cocaine. Let's put a Hellcat motor in it. We all loved that. Obviously, that can't last forever. We'd love to see them just Hellcat every single product at some point. I think if you're going to completely disband that team, you take away the power of them being able to Hellcat a Durango. You know,
Yes.
it's just not going to happen. Now, will there be a turbo Durango? Possibly.
Yeah, but is it going to be half of what it could have been?
I mean, we'll see. But I do think there's magic lost. And Dodge had a niche doing this. Like nobody else was really doing this retarded supercharged V8 thing into everything. So they may be shooting themselves in the foot. Like Jay says, they could just make a 600 horsepower turbo V6 and we'll like it better because it's lighter and handles better and has all the power.
Jay, is the Dodge Ram TRX, is that proof that they're not changing their vision too much, or is that kind of the end of an era?
It could be the end of an era. But I mean, that's the latest and greatest, right? So what I'm reading here is this came out February 17th. And this is what it says right here. And so I don't know what this really means. I don't know. It could be just pandering to us, but SRT is still with us. SRT developed products are still going to be released for the foreseeable future. The group's engineers are all still basically doing the same thing. It says, what has happened is the people SRT engineers report to are now different for the sake of spreading their expertise around a newly formed Stellantis. It's an organizational change, not a change to SRT's outlook or its effect on the company's product. So we'll see if that's true or false. You know,
I got to be honest. I think it's false. I think with everybody saying 2030, 2035 is going to be our date for switching over to everything as electric. While I don't think that that's true, as a matter of fact, I affectionately call it the Liars Club whenever somebody says, oh, we're going to go all electric by 2035. I don't believe it for a second. And that's simply because right now our electrical output in the United States is half of what we would need to operate all vehicles being electric. We're not talking about homes and everything else. We're talking about just strictly vehicles. We have half as much as we need just to strictly power vehicles and nothing else. So obviously they're lying to us. We're not going to advance that much in 14 years. That's not going to happen. Coy, you look like you have thoughts.
I don't have a lot of thoughts about the electrical part. I mean, it's possible that we could just start building wholesale nuclear power stations, which I'm actually for, but I don't see it happening. But I'm sad that they're changing. Either way, if they're just changing a little bit, when you start changing something that's at this moment magical,
yeah,
right,
you can ruin the whole thing with a small change. Like if it's working so well right now, don't fix it. Wait for it to start to have some problems.
Hasn't Dodge kind of been, I don't want to say on the chopping block, but haven't they been in trouble a few times here in recent memory?
Or with the government, you mean? Or,
period, I think.
As far as like sales are concerned, where their company was going?
I believe so, for sure. And one thing that about the 2035 thing, I agree with you because I have something to draw on that has absolutely nothing to do with vehicles. So I went back to college in 2008, graduated in 2012. And back then we were talking about the Real ID Act and the federal government. We still haven't adopted it. Not every single state. That basically what that is the enhanced IDs.
Mm-hmm.
And every year they keep pushing it back. And here we are in 2021. Every time I go into the airport, it says by October of 2021, let's do this. But last year it was 2020 and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, this is so aggressive to your point. I don't really see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. I don't see it happening. Jeep has recently been talking about it and are slated to introduce some new hybrid lines for their Jeep. The Gladiator is, of course, going to be getting a hybrid line. And by the way, that's supposed to be really, really good because on demand, you're supposed to be able to get an incredible amount of horsepower. I think it was close to 500 foot-pounds of torque because you have this piggyback electrical motor working in conjunction with the gasoline engine, how most hybrids have worked in the past. And I could see that being a very positive, and especially in the off-road realm. But a lot of this stuff is just too pie in the sky, in my opinion.
It's the whole, like when I was a kid, they told me, you're learning the metric system in school because when you grow up, this is what street signs,
right?
This is what the speed limit's going to be wrote in, is the metric system. They told my dad the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Coy, there are two types of countries in this world, ones that use the metric system and ones that have been to the moon. And I think we know which is which.
Royale with cheese. Yes.
I always like to say we do use the metric system in America. We measure bullets with it. So there.
It's true. Yeah.
Another fun fact for you is it only takes 6 millimeters of change in direction for you to sever your spinal cord, which actually brings us to our next news article. You're not going to believe this, you guys. It has been 20 years since Dale Earnhardt passed away on the track.
That was the most brutal segue I have ever heard in my life. Jesus Christ.
They call me the Sultan of Segways.
I tell you what, it's stuff like that that makes you feel really old.
That is a fact, son. That is a fact. Look up when Call of Duty was first released, the very first one. That'll make you feel real old.
No.
You know what truly made me feel old is when I saw the picture of his wife or daughter, whoever's there, and just the style and makeup and hairdo. I was like, I remember when he died. Did people look like that then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Hell, my hair was like that at the time.
Yeah. Jay had the feathered look, the feathered mullet. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
You guys, of course, remember what happened to Dale Earnhardt. He did not have a hard wreck. He went up into the wall. People felt like it was very pedestrian. It looked like a very pedestrian accident. Jay, you're doing some hand motions. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. You see it back then, and it's like, oh, well, that doesn't look too bad, but it's just looked like it was just a 90-degree boom. And the biggest thing I remember from that is that basically put the hands device on the map. I mean, it was out there, but people weren't taking it serious. And at that point, I will always remember that as the exact moment where the hands devices just became like mandatory.
And a lot of people feel that way. It wasn't technically mandatory right after his accident, but it was later on in the year. By October of the same year after he passed away, they did mandate the Hans device to be used. They had they'd recommended the Hans device be used in Formula One. The FIA had strongly recommended the use of Hans devices as early as 1996, I believe. Of course, Dale Earnhardt passed away in 2001, and it's amazing to me how many drivers were still resistant to it after the fact.
I mean, if you've worn one before, they are confining. You're not looking over your shoulder to see if you can pass.
You're doing the Batman.
Yeah.
I do want to throw this into perspective real quick, though. The reason why Dale Earnhardt passed away isn't because his head was thrown back. It's because his head was thrown laterally in a direction, one side or the other. I mean, to him, even though it proved to be a fatal injury to him, it might not have even at the time felt like that hard of a hit to him. I just want to point that out. It has more to do with the fact that the head made a shearing force and direction rather than a backwards and forwards whiplash motion.
Science behind it.
Yeah.
I also heard that he had been in so many wrecks and had enough neck injuries. It's pretty possible that if it was just a younger guy that hadn't been in a bunch of wrecks, would have been fine-ish.
Because he wouldn't have had so much damage to the discs, damage to the muscles. Yeah.
Go ahead.
My problem with Hans devices is, I shouldn't say my problem. The part that annoyed me is, so Hans was you could only buy a Hans brand Hans device for a long time. That little piece of carbon fibery plastic and those two straps was $700-800. And until the last, I'm going to say 6 years ago or so, when their patents and stuff ran out, did there finally start being other brands?
Sure.
Still expensive. They were $300-400, but at least, and this doesn't matter to NASCAR, but in the amateur racing realm, when you're paying more for a Hans device than your helmet and possibly your suit, course guys are going to be resistant to buy those.
Also, possibly more than your vehicle.
Right.
Racing.
Yes. So I understand that somebody came up with a good idea and they wanted to make their money, but it was also a life safety idea, and they're crazy. I feel like crazy expensive for what they are. If they're more expensive than the helmet, that's insane to me.
Fun fact for you, the Hans device was actually developed in the late 80s.
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
A long time. Jay, have you ever worn Hans device in a race?
I have no. I don't do road course racing, but I have worn one. I wore one at the Ford Performance Experience when they were kind of going around the country and kind of touring in the Ford Focus and the GT350, GT350R. So they came out here to Wild Horse Pass in Arizona, and we were out there. We're at the track for like 6 hours, bro. Like 6 hours. And the total track time was like 15 minutes. The rest of it was all presentation and stuff. But yeah, I've definitely worn one of those, and they're very restrictive, but I understand why.
So literally 4 hours of presentation, 1.5 hours of you standing around, getting in your suit, waiting for your turn, and then 15 minutes of runtime, and then 15 minutes of them telling you, all right, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent experience.
Quick question on that. So is there any kind of, because I've always wondered, could I just get in and do my lap? And he's like, all right, pull off here. I'm just like, no, I'm going to go for a little longer and just do like 15 more laps. Like, or do they have a kill? Because of course you're going to get kicked out immediately, but I've already got what I wanted, and I'm kicked out of the Ford Performance Experience for the rest of my life. Ooh,
it would have been worth it.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, so when something like that comes around, I'm always wondering, like, do they have a kill switch off to the side, or can I just be like, hey, bro, I'm kind of going to ignore you.
I think that would be, remember the God, what's his face that did the Camaro commercial where he would just get in and act like he was just some dude and he just freaking
was that
the ride of their life.
Michael Waltrip or somebody?
No, it's a house. Oh, Jeff Gordon, right?
Jeff Gordon, yeah.
So how cool would that be to be like a classically trained, maybe a tier B driver and go to one of those things, just don't say anything about it.
Can I tell you real quick, Jay, when you said, when Coy said what driver was it, my very first thought was it's that NASCAR driver that enunciates. I can't remember what his name is. Jeff Gordon, yeah.
Yep. So that'd be kind of cool just to kind of screw with the course instructor of the day.
Right.
So I don't have the kind of skills to impress a course instructor, but I could do a thing where I just cut across the chicane through the dirt and back onto the pavement and do some of those moves.
I'll tell you what, I've actually been on Road America up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And I went out there 2 track. So we had the morning and afternoon session, and then I did the morning session the following day. And one of the guys told me I'm the only person that he's ever met that would trade out my car because I had bad brakes. So basically I had an Infiniti G50 something, and I just blew the brakes out. Yep.
And so what did you trade it for then?
Another one.
Oh,
so I took it back to the car dealership or the rental place. I was like, man, these brakes aren't very good. I don't think I should be driving around in this thing all week. I mean, I can, but it might be a safety issue. So they swapped out for another one, and that one I took to the track as well the next day. Did the morning session. After that, I called it quits because I needed my brakes to last the rest of the week. I don't think my instructor was very happy with me.
Instructors usually aren't. I'm going to be honest.
But I'm flying past NSXs and Type Rs like all day in modern technology.
Bro, it's that late braking. That's what it is. If you've got the cojones to do the late braking, I mean, that's really what will get you past. Speaking of cojones, I think it's time for everybody's favorite segment. Coy, are you ready for this?
Yes, I am.
Overland is fucked!
And today on Overland AF, we've got something pretty special. What do you have for us, Coy?
This is a custom-built tow truck that's in Moab. It's a K30 Chevy pickup.
A 1982?
Yeah. This thing, if you're for the people on audio, I mean, this is a Mad Max dually 37s, I'm going to say. No doors. I mean, just rat rod beast tow truck.
Can we say bonerific?
That's fine. Yeah.
Thing is badass.
It is so awesome. I'm going to Moab this July. I have a trip planned. I'm going to be there for about 3.5 days, and we'll be doing some wheeling. And I've heard that you can just see this guy in town. It's a fairly small town, so there's a chance I will actually get to see this in person.
The truck builder, Rory Irish, he calls this, instead of tow mater, he calls it the trail mater. And man, what an absolute beast. I've never seen anything with dually off-road tires in the back.
There is a guy out here on the coast that has a build like this, but not as, it's lifted with big tires like this, but still, you know, not caged and open cab like that. And he goes out on the dunes, you know, and pulls guys out. But same thing. He comes in, brings it in on a flatbed, and then goes out, pulls them, and puts them. I mean, I don't know what he charges per hour, but I bet it's $400 an hour or better.
Rory says most places they'll take an on-road wrecker and modify it for off-road use. But those are so heavy that when you get into the trails, you're struggling just to pull yourself around, let alone pull another vehicle. His wrecker features a fuel-injected big block V8 rear end from a Dodge Dually and 6 winches. Irish also carries a welder and air compressor, fluids, spare pumps, bolts, and steel plates for remote repairs. Because, as he says, it's always easier to drive a vehicle out than it is to carry one out.
Yeah, and he charges quite a bit more to tow you out. So if you can let him spend an hour helping you get your rig running, that hour of, you know, per hour is going to save you a lot.
As a matter of fact, Irish says his fees vary. I charge $150 an hour if I've got to go out and fix them or pull them out. But if I have to carry them out, it's $200 an hour, and I'm the cheapest in town. A difficult tow can reach nearly $2,000 an hour, but Irish is always willing to bargain. I've been there. I've dealt with these issues personally. He says, I'm not going to prey on that. I think that, in my opinion, is one of the highlights for what he does, because just there, and from what I've heard from other people on the trail who have experienced him before, he's not looking to gouge people. He's looking to be out there, have a good time, and truly help people that are trying to enjoy the trails.
This is a guy that turned a hobby into his career, and man, I'm a little jealous, honestly. Like, that's what he gets to do. Hang out in Moab, take his super built tow truck out and rescue people. And then that pays his bills, you know, like a little jealous.
I have two thoughts looking at this thing, other than that it's badass, right? So the first thing is that the cover photo, and people on the audio can't see it, but it's a kind of a front 3/4 view coming up a hill, and it looks like an anglerfish, right? So
yeah.
Looks like an anglerfish, and it's raw like an anglerfish. But the next thing is, this guy, what he needs is some dude strapped to the front playing an electric guitar, just like freaking Mad Max. Like, you can't unsee that. If you look at that, you can't unsee it. And that's it, man. That's all this thing needs.
He needs pyrotechnics. Like, when he rolls up and he sees you stuck, there needs to be some fire that shoots in the air, and some guitar solos for sure.
Hopefully he's not wearing what he's wearing in this picture. Hopefully he comes out with some crazy steampunkish looking shit.
Leather and a scary face mask. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. The leather straps, the hockey mask. We are the future of the human civilization. You will give up to us everything you own. You will give us your gasoline because we require it to keep the wheels of the new world turning.
That was almost Bane-erific.
Yes.
I like that. And then he just takes it off. Somebody need a tow.
I would argue that Mad Max is the original Bane. Not Mad Max, the character Mad Max, but the antagonist.
He was born from that group for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, I would just like to see this guy roll up, and when he sees a stuck vehicle and he's like, "So what do we got here?" I want to see him just pull a Bud Light out of his pocket and do that move, you know, where you grab the thing and then you throw the can out with both arms and pop it open and blast booze everywhere. Take a big swig of it, you know, just roll up and crack a beer immediately.
I'll do you one better. I want to see him puncture the beer can with one of his tow hooks and then crack it open and beer bong it.
Shotgun it right there. Yeah.
Well, if you look closely on one of these photos right next to the Optima battery, he's got something strapped there with some sort of a juice bottle. It could easily be a can of beer.
Yeah.
You guys see it.
Beast.
Oh, yeah.
Beast.
That might actually be the coolant bottle. I did that for a little while in my all-wheel drive Protege. I had a Monster Energy can as a coolant overflow.
I might be throwing away my age here, but when I was in school, if you sold enough candy bars for whatever fundraiser was going on, you know, you could get all these prizes. And one of them was a football helmet that had 2 at the time soda can holders
Yeah.
with like drain tubes that would come down to your mouth.
I love how naive we were to think that was meant for soda.
Yeah, I can't believe
Giant Water Boy had one. One of the,
Yeah.
like that. But you guys remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I want to
absolutely.
roll up in one of those. Just get out. I'd have like a Bud Light in one and a Natty Ice in the other for when shit got crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm amazed you're not doing a Coke in one and a rum bottle in the other, and then valves to adjust how much comes into each.
Well, I want to get these people unstuck, not ruin their vehicle. So
You know.
Right here to add a little carbonation to it.
Yes, thank you.
And got
Add a waiver. Have them sign a waiver, Coy.
fair enough.
What do you think? What does this guy put into his truck to make it what it is now that you're seeing the photos?
Well, not an SRT. He's better hurry up if he wants to get one of those in there.
You know, the way he has this true. The way he has this built, and I'm going to go out on a very, very short limb and say he does his own work. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I mean, this is homemade clearly, and it's done in a cool way.
Not homemade, homebrew.
This home fab. This is a home fab setup. Utah and Moab, the weather's a little different there and stuff. Nothing really needs to be super waterproofed and all that. This thing, probably you could replicate something like this for 20 grand. Like if you had nothing and you went and bought a truck and you want to make a truck like this. I mean, and I'm counting, he's got to have an onboard welder, you know, he's got a lot of stuff. He's got 6 winches.
Yeah.
That's like $4 grand right there. So I think 20 grand, you could get something real close to this.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Jay?
I have no idea. I just think that the more rust, the more better, the Moab.
Oh, I can't top that. Overland is fucked. That's a great Overland AF, Coy. I'm glad that we were able to talk about this. I think that truly this dude is like the Batman of the desert.
I hope so.
Yeah. And speaking of, we've got a segment coming up. Jay, you and I talked about it. Coy and I did not talk about it, but I do think that it's something that we need to do. Coy, we want to talk about the top 5 most overrated JDM cars available right now. You ready to do this?
Do it. Do it.
Jay, you good?
I'm good. I can't give you.
The Horsepower Hour presents this month's Top 5 of the Week. Today.
And top 5 of the week today, right now, is, of course, overrated JDM vehicles. And Jay, this was your idea, so I'm actually going to let you start, man.
Me? I don't have any particular order, but I think one of the most overrated, at least here in the US, is the R32. I think people started importing them because it reached that 25-year mark and they just wanted it. They brought it in, and you pull up to the car meet and everyone's like,
bro, come on. I am such an R32 fanboy. You can't say that.
I have to go with Jay on this.
Wow.
It is the JDM Mustang.
Oh, no.
It really is.
It's the flex body LX of them.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, since you're saying that, I'm going to introduce number 4, which is the S2000. I'm sorry.
Ouch.
240 horsepower. Like you couldn't muster any more than that. And by the way, bolt-ons, forget about it. You want bolt-ons to this motor? It's already tuned the absolute best it can possibly be. It's not making any more horsepower.
That was painful. That hurt a little bit.
Well,
I'm sorry when Honda's out there breaking horsepower per liter records, putting shit in the Guinness books that you call that overrated.
Well, guess what's broken those records almost immediately? Everything else.
It was like 10 years. That's not immediately.
Okay, my truck's got a better horsepower to weight ratio.
No.
Well,
your core truck is turbocharged. That's a different thing. We're talking all motor here, baby.
No, I'm sorry, but S2000s, they handle great. Don't get me wrong. They handle great. They're neat. That digital dash, woo, it's from the 80s. Cool. Okay.
I agree with the digital dash.
I don't know. I can't agree with that one.
All
I've
right.
never driven an S2000, but man, people love those damn things, man. People swear by them.
That's fine. That's fine. What do you think, Koi?
Well, I think you were just trying to hurt me.
No, number 3. Let's hear it.
Oh, sorry. Since you gave me so much time to prepare, so much, I'm gonna go Miata. Not
What?
Anyway,
Are you kidding me right
yes,
now?
because right now, go ahead and get on Facebook Marketplace and see what Miata prices are doing. It's not necessarily the JDM tax, it's the drift tax. All the guys realize how expensive a 240 was, and they're jumping on the Miata train. They're realizing how good a Miata is, and they're ruining it for guys that like Miatas like us. This is not the Miata's fault.
Yeah, they're ruining it because Miatas are so good. How are they overrated?
That's why they're because they were
boy.
underrated for so long. I'm gonna say, like, they're taking a car that was a beautiful, wonderful, tiny rear-wheel drive little monster that was kind of niche. Like, people were like, "Oh, have fun in your secretary's car," and you're like, "Absolutely, I will." Bye. And now people are like, "Look, I stanced it. My wheels are pointing at the sky. I got so much negative," and it's just they're out there just ruining them. That's why they're overrated.
All right, Jay, I'm going to give you the number 2 slot. What do you think?
oh man, I got a couple here, and people are not going to like me. And it doesn't mean I
only
don't
give the one.
like
Only
the
give the
car.
one.
But I'm going to say the 300ZX. I was going to say a 3000 GT, but I'm going to say the 300ZX.
300ZXs, they caught drift tax before Miatas did.
That's true. And it's sad because the performance of the 300ZX is meh. Like, yeah.
It's not bad.
Though.
It's not great, but it's not bad.
Those Datsuns are up there though too, man. They're not really. Those caught fire a few years ago, and now everybody just thinks those are the best things.
The 300ZXs. So I'm not even talking about the Z32s right now. I'm talking about the Z31s. Have you seen the value of those going up? It's unreal.
I still hate those that I don't care. Like, good. Spend your money on those and leave other cars for me.
Why do you hate them so much?
I just don't like Z31s. They're
the look, the handling, what?
Just the look.
Okay. All right. You're not a pop-up headlight fan.
No, I don't think so now that you mention it. But
okay. That's why he said Miata, by the way. That's the cap.
Yeah.
What's your issue with the 300ZX?
They just weren't that great of cars, and everyone loves them. I mean, if I had to pull an audible, I'd say the Datsun 240s because those shot up in the last few years, and there's nothing great about those cars. Nothing.
That's the nostalgia factor, though. You got a lot of these dudes where the 240Zs, 260Zs, 280Zs, those actually were kind of running with the hot rods, the Camaros and the AMXs and the Chargers and the Challengers back in the day. I mean, my dad was kind of a hot rodder back in the day, and he talks about how dudes would show up with 240Zs, and if they had any amount of work done to them, then they were a force to be reckoned with. But I think that's why some of those are catching the value now, is because that nostalgia factor.
What are we at with number 1?
Number 1, I'm going to go ahead and take that from you guys because I know you're both going to agree. S13 240SXs, 100% the most overrated JDM vehicle on the planet right now.
You really think it's the number 1?
Yes, the number 1.
You're going to take it over a bug-eyed WRX.
Have you seen the cost of an S13 right now?
I agree with that part. The drift tax is insane. It's ridiculous.
You can't get a 200,000 mile welded diff with a blown motor S13 240SX for less than $5,000 right now.
Yeah, no, it's a good time to have a stockpile of them to sell.
Jay, feel free to try to refute me, even though I'm not wrong.
I got nothing for you because you're right. I don't know how many people actually value those unless you're in the drift scene. I've had a really cool drifter on the show, and he says stay away from them. And that's the stuff that he is into. He said that was his biggest mistake, was jumping into one of those things first.
Can I ask you, did he have any advice for you or opinion as to why he said that those are ones to stay away from?
Nothing ever works. Nothing ever works. It's just you're going to pay so much more to get those things running. And if you get one that actually runs, leave it alone.
Totally agree.
Yeah, leave it alone so that it can lose value in another 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but in my opinion, those are like Honda Civics. We're finally starting to see Honda Civics down into the 1,000 range, $800 range. And it's because they were just so valuable for a long time because people thought they were these race cars. And now they're starting to come back down because they're truly just the affordable ship boxes that they always were meant to be.
Yeah.
Actually, for once in my life, Civics aren't overrated anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were the king of that for, God, 20 years.
B series motor swaps, those are still overrated. They're still $4,000. But we'll come around to those.
I don't know if they're overrated. I think they've all been used up, and now it's just supply and demand. There's not that many left.
Well, you could be right. I mean, the next hot Honda could be manual transmission CRVs.
Maybe
All-wheel drive, B20. Most of them have not been just like completely raped and molested their entire lives.
I don't see it happening, but I mean, it's possible.
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm starting to finally see a few of those with VTEC heads thrown on them, and lowered. Their all-wheel drive systems are not bad. We're starting to see some of those, if not for builds and CRVs, purely because they can be swapped into one of the EK chassis Civics.
Yeah, I agree.
Shall we throw a few more out there, because usually we say 5 and we do 10 or 8?
Sure. A few honorable mentions.
Yeah. I got to go basically all Subarus, but I'm going to really narrow it down to the Bug Eyes.
Yeah.
Those Bug Eye WRXs, I feel like, are some of the trashiest cars.
Yeah.
They were like the first like all-wheel drive beast in America, and they would just show up. They were decimating at autocrosses, but guys were struggling to keep them running. They'd spend half a season just beating us up, and then we'd be like, "Where'd he go?" And he'd be like, "Well, his transmission exploded, so we'll see him next year." I was like, "Good, I can get back in the points running now."
Or my favorite version of that is, the motor blew, but I got a new one, and suddenly they're a lot faster, and you're like, "Well, hang on, which motor is that?" I don't know, some JDM takeout. Turns out it was the version 5 STI motor. It's still 2-liter, so they think they're pulling a fast one on people.
Yeah, there were a few guys that got talkings too about that at autocrosses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody wanted to replicate their childhood dreams of the WRC rally car, the big fatty. So when we got the neutered version here, it's just all downhill from there.
Everybody wanted that blue and bronze with the yellow side,
Yep.
Jay, I got one for you. In my opinion, overrated. I'm going to make some people pretty heated here. The 4th gen Supra.
Yes. So that was the one I almost said was the number one. I was talking on the MK4 Supra is, sorry people, it's overrated. It's, Fast and Furious, and I used to go to the import drag races with Powerhouse Super, and they could pull down some numbers.
Yep.
But just because it can go fast as hell in a straight line doesn't make it a good car.
Yep.
And I borrowed the keys to one of those from my friend Fat Jimmy back when it was brand new, and I took it out, got on the on-ramp, hit the gas, the butt sank just like a boat, and it took like an hour, and all of a sudden it was like, I was like, good Lord, this thing handles like a boat.
All right, follow-up question. Your buddy Fat Jimmy, does he call himself Fat Jimmy, or do you guys call him Fat Jimmy and he's always like, hey?
Yeah, he kind of laughs with it, yeah. Really cool guys.
Is it ironic Fat Jimmy, or is Fat Jimmy fat? Is it like the Little John that's 6'7",
Yeah, it's like a Little John version. He was a really, really big kid. He wasn't like, he was just like this towering Asian dude. He's probably 6'3", 6'4", glasses, fun-loving, could probably smash all of us with a Hulk smash maneuver, but was just too nice to do it. But his parents would always throw him the keys to a new car all the time. So, when you're young, you get a new car and you're the, hey guys, you'll throw your keys around to your buddies. And so those things.
It was like when Coy was younger and we used to call him Coytard.
Coytardimus. That was my first title, actually. I retired it. I agree that Supras are overrated, but I also understand why they're overrated. I mean, they've become legendary in this.
But why?
Honestly, Fast and Furious had a lot to do with it, but it was like one of the original super fast, not super fast factory. One of the first cars that was an import car
Yeah.
that could pop wheelies and stuff. Like when all the muscle car guys are like, look at this car, it's popping a wheelie. You could be like, hey, Toyota Supra, bro. It's super fast. There's lots of, and you could get on your dial-up internet and pull up a picture of a Supra doing a super fast drag run.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in everybody's mind, if you were going to build an import for drag racing, that was the chassis, if, dream world you would do. Now, all those kids, well, not all those kids, apparently, but some of those kids have a lot of money and they can get their childhood dream car. So at, one generation, it might've been a 67 Mach 1. Well, now it's, this generation's it's a Supra. So
yeah,
I get why they are priced the way they are. The performance is not what people think it is.
Clean OEM form, they're not a very good looking car.
No,
I appreciate them for what they are, but once you throw some wheels, a little bit of light aero, you make them balls to the wall fast. I mean, you can make them not only fast but look pretty damn good.
I absolutely agree.
We're just talking out of the box.
Yeah,
we can also make them look really horrendous. We had Smoking a Doob here a while back.
Sweet, like full Fast and Furious wide body.
It looked like the head on a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was
that
real
Fast
bad.
and Furious one was pretty hideous when you go back and look at it.
Yeah,
Right.
It was then, actually.
And also in the original Fast and the Furious, they didn't highlight it at all, but they had an R33 GTR. We never got to see it run. It was by far and away probably the fastest vehicle in the movie.
Didn't they have the Veilside RX-7 in there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Pretty sure
That FD, yeah.
If that was not the fastest car in the movie, it was probably the best looking.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
No, hold on. No, the red DC2 Integra with the, was it DC Sports? What was that on it that RJ DeVera was driving, or was it?
It was DC Sports, wasn't it?
I think so.
Was it DC or was it Skunk? I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. That was
like black and purple and chrome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all those old school brands that most of are defunct or not as cool as they were. They had a lot of crazy builds. I can't remember them all.
I'm still going to do the nitrous under the seat cushion though, because Fast and the Furious for life. Come on, guys.
I like it where
welds start popping when the blur starts kicking in.
Yes, dude. Yes, the floor pan falls out of your vehicle.
Yeah, it's good shit, man. I'm gonna go build that right now. I'll turn my Infinity FX into something like that.
I'm sorry. I want to get nitrous, but not hook it up to my engine. Just have a purge on the hood, so I can just roll up to lights and purge hard. I want to be like those lizards that pop up the big, what do you call it? Fray. I don't know what it is. Yeah,
the big
inflap thing.
They're the ones that go poof, and they run at you.
Yeah, then we'll run on the back lids, pop up a big round thing around their head. I want to be like that, but with nitrous, where I just roll up and I have purges where they shouldn't be, like up by the moon roof.
Yeah.
A couple on the sides. Just my car just goes full smoke screen when I purge my nitrous, but not actually hook it to the motor.
So what happens when somebody calls your bluff?
Well, I just never race. I'm just like, did you see this? No, you're too little. You're not strong enough to battle me yet. And I just drive away.
Jay Coy talks about this quite a bit, where he would just kind of flex on people and then go, nah, you're not worth racing. Can we still do that these days?
I like that move though. You can roll your window down and be like, bruh, racetrack.
Yeah. I don't race.
Oh, you can't go. Well,
all this.
I don't do the street racing shit. It's beneath me.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Just keep purging.
Just like that. Just like his vape he just did.
Yeah.
That was your delight.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I know not nitrous is just an oxidizer, but if I could add on the back of the car, add some fuel so that as I drove away, I could flick a cigarette button. There'd just be a big fuel air bomb behind me, this big woof.
I dig that.
In an interesting way, when the car was wrapped, I wanted to find a way to, when I got on the gas, shoot blue flames out the back like an afterburner. That would have been really cool.
Yes, you need that propane injection with the spark plug in the tailpipe.
Yep, and just be the.
They make something like that now. There's blue LED light, and then it just shoots smoke out. You have a button, and it's just like a smoke that gets injected into the muffler, but the blue LED light shines back and turns it all blue.
They actually have a cheaper kit available for Subarus where it doesn't come with the smoke, because you're creating your own.
You just install the LED ring light at the right time.
It doesn't even have to be blue because you blew the head gasket, so it's already blue coming out.
Pretty bluish, yeah.
You guys have to filibuster for me because I have to go back and find a video that our buddy Jake posted. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do. He's working on a Subaru right now.
He's had a Subaru. It's had all kinds of problems, and he doesn't really know why it's had all these problems, but it might be knocking on death's door now at this point. I have to scroll back and find it. Filibuster for me, Corey.
I'm certain that it's knocking on death's door. He got it with no title. He's been trying to get the title. Now he's working on it, just on and on and on. And of course, it shoots smoke out and does all the, overheating things that you would think a Subaru would do.
Let's go ahead and we're going to make this full screen. It's not going to have any audio, so I apologize to audio listeners, but we will have a link available to this video. So our buddy Jake was like, yeah, I think this car is going to be fine. I added some fluids to it. I think it's going to be fine. And then he posts this video of him focusing on the case split. You know how Subarus have two separate halves of the block that get bolted together. And there is a solid stream of steam and smoke pouring out of that split. And you can see it on the video right now if you're on a live stream.
Is this before or after the seafoam green?
No, this is after he's done all the stuff thinking, all right, well, I think I have this motor sorted. And then he fired it up and it started pouring steam out from underneath the hood. And it is clearly just pushing it out of the block wholesale.
Well,
it's like a gas pocket. Got the heat waves distorting the recording.
Yeah.
Does he have a Geiger counter there too? I feel like this thing is radiation.
Yeah. There's definitely a Godzilla situation going on.
That poor car. It has this weird, and he can't figure out why, but the rev limiter is stuck at 4,500 RPM. That he figured that would keep the motor running, but then also I've ridden with him and he just sort of hangs it off the limiter all the time.
He does like to do that.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I have a vehicle that maybe would handle the rev limiter a little bit better, but I think we're here to find out. You ready for our deal or doob of the day?
Let's do it.
Smoking deal or smoking a doobie.
And today's dealer doobie, Coy found. Tell us about this thing, man.
This is a 2013 FJ Cruiser supercharged lift Overlander owner in Portland, Oregon. It's not even too far from me. Going for the cheap price of $39,995.
Just so we're not mincing words here. This is a $40,000 Toyota FJ Cruiser. Now, what year is your FJ, Coy?
Mine is a 2010.
When you bought yours, what was that? 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
I bought mine in 2012.
So 9 years ago.
Yeah, I've had it a while.
What did you pay for that one?
So mine is a Trail Teams edition. So it's actually a better edition than this. I mean, not saying that Trail Teams all that special, but so mine was Trail Teams edition. It had 26,000 miles or at like 2690 or something. I paid 26 even for my FJ bone stock.
So I have to ask somebody that knows their FJs. Let's go through some of these photos here. What is your general feeling on someone now asking, $40,000 for one?
So FJ Cruisers are the best reselling, hold their resale better. They're number one in the nation for resale value. Surprisingly, have been for several years. This one's highly modified. With a bunch of bolt-ons. I mean, it's not like it's got a bunch of custom work as far as I can tell. Mine is actually pretty similarly built. He's got something weird on moose on the hood. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, but, an elk or something. Yeah,
this is it's Rudolph. I believe it's Cavalry blue. It's kind of like the old school FJ40 blue. It's a nice color. His has the white roof, which I despise. I like them all color matched.
And let's go through some of these vehicle features real quick here.
I can barely read those, but he does have the Magnuson supercharger kit. So that's, $5,000-$6,000. And I don't really understand why guys are supercharging their off-road rigs. This is clearly not like a Baja rig, something you kind of tootle around in. He has an intercooler, dual coolant reservoir, air raid intake, Edge 900.
Oh, and I just want to throw this out there real quick. He has prices next to everything. that's been modified on this.
Yeah, what it'll cost.
I really love when people do that because they think that they're going to get the retail value out of what they've put into their project vehicle. You know what I'm talking about, Jay?
Absolutely.
So he has an Edge 9,500 pound winch. So I've never even heard of the brand Edge. He says he paid $899 for it.
It's that Harbor Freight one.
To me, that's zero. That's zero.
It's the Badlands.
You have a trash winch. It's nice that there's one there that adds $38 in the value to me. He has a DeMello off-road rally bumper. Those are great bumpers. He has an FJC rear swing out stage 4. That is, I believe, a DeMello as well. 3,500. Those are very expensive. That's cool. They're super heavy. I haven't put a swing out on because it's just adding between 200 and 300 pounds to the back of a vehicle.
Mhm.
I mean, they're nice, but man, they're heavy. Total Chaos lower control arm setup, $2,200. They are. I've bought those. He has King off-road suspension. That's expensive as well. Those are racing air quotes shocks.
Mhm.
I don't have Kings. I have Rad Flows. That doesn't mean a whole lot because Kings, all these racing, quote unquote, racing shocks, they're big reservoir, 2.5-inch shocks. They have to be rebuilt about every 25,000 miles.
Wow.
Fully rebuilt. It's an off-road racing shock. That's what it is. It costs, $150 or whatever to have them rebuilt. But so he put $3,600 in there. They probably need rebuilt, for being honest. Baja roof rack, $1,000. I have never put a different brand other than factory roof rack on my vehicle because how much shit do you carry on your roof?
Right.
And why would you put weight at the highest point on your vehicle that also cuts into your aerodynamics while making your vehicle more top? Like, that's the worst place to put weight, is in the highest point of your vehicle. Like,
right.
Everybody knows this, right? So there you go. He has rock sliders, $600. That's, big deal. Diff skid plate. I don't know if he does a lot of rock crawling in his 33 or 35-inch tire.
Well, onboard air compressor, that's got to be worth something.
Yeah, it's worth something. That's $550. That's what they cost new. And
here's what I'm curious about, though: RCI rock sliders and diff skid plate, and then it says down here complete skid plate system. Are those different?
So yes. So the rock sliders would be kind of like
Your
Nerf
running
step
board,
looking
sure.
things, running board. Diff plate is the rear diff. It's a protective cover. There's almost no reason to have that. I mean, imagine hitting your rear diff on something so freaking hard that you needed an extra heavy steel protectant on there. There's only a few guys doing that. I unless you're live in a terrain where you're constantly wheeling and just rocky stuff, there's no need. And then the full skid plate, that's just, oil pan, transmission, transfer case, and fuel tank skids.
Well, here's something I wanted to ask you about. 295 7017 tires.
That's like a 33.5-inch tire.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a 33, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's 33.5 there.
What do you have on your truck?
I have 35s.
So wouldn't the money be better spent in a 35-inch tire rather than 33s with the super fancy wheels?
Hey, some people don't like big tires. I don't know.
Okay, but what about the snorkel? Surely the snorkel's worth $1 bajillion. Come on.
What were you going to say, Jay?
I said I have all sorts of questions when we get through this list.
Okay. The
snorkel, man.
What does he have priced? Safari snorkel. Those are you can get those for cheap. I don't run one. They're not really for water. They're for dust. Guys think that because they have a snorkel, they can just drive up to their windows in water. Well, I hate to tell you, but your ECU's on the fucking floorboard. So
true.
Yeah, let's do the math of what's going to happen here.
True. Yeah.
But they do get your intake up out of the dust stream instead of the wheel well. So if you are driving a lot of gravel roads, they can help. You don't have to change your air filter as often. So there you go. I just buy an air filter twice a year.
Gotcha.
That's how I do that.
So what do we think as far as all the money that he's put into this thing? I mean, what are the actual mods that you feel like you'd really want for an FJ that you're going to overland?
I do love the suspension. He didn't really say what all's going on with his suspension. So there's that suspension, $3,600. That's about right price wise. The air compressor, number one mod for any 4x vehicle, like your first mod, is air compressor and tires in my mind. So there's that. I do like that. He's got a supercharger. That's cool. It's kind of here nor there. Like, in my mind, sometimes I think, man, it'd be cool to get a supercharger on my vehicle. I'd like more power. I already get 14 miles a gallon though, and I'm not racing anybody. I'm not really towing anything heavy. A supercharger is kind of more of a flex thing than it is a performance thing.
The supercharger, in my understanding, is it has added around 45 horsepower.
Yeah, $46,000.
Wow. I mean, listen, 45 horsepower when you're making 80 horsepower, that's a considerable amount.
Yeah, no, it's 45 horsepower, and I think stock they're at like 250 horsepower. Those.
Well, Jay, I think it's time to hear some of your thoughts, man. Hit us with it.
Well, Coy, are there any two things in combination on this list that just don't make sense for being on there together? Because one of the biggest questions I have looking at this extensive mod list and hearing your comments as a resident subject matter expert, because I can't tell you shit for shat, is this seems like a flex build. This almost seems like I don't know if it's been to SEMA, but it's something I would typically see at SEMA where it just has like everything.
This is like an Overland parts catalog build.
Yeah.
Which sadly, it's fairly similar to my build, but I've tastefully left some things off. So,
and you use yours probably for what you need.
I do. I like to go off road and I do some search and rescue stuff and I go camping. And maybe this guy did too. I don't know. He's got a ham radio there, looks like. But I mean, to go off road, do you need a giant rear swing out? Like, no, not at all. Do you need that much armor? Absolutely not. It's really weighing it down. He's got a drawer system, and I'm not sure what's going on with the.
It's pink for people on audio. It's a pink shag carpet rollout system. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Jay, since you're not a local, I'm going to go ahead and say this because I did live in Portland for a long time. This looks like something built by a Portlander that has never really been off-road. I mean, they've used it in the snow maybe a few times when it snowed in Portland, but I have a feeling that's about the extent of it because no one I know that does any amount of off-roading would have pink shag carpet lining their slide out.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe he had camera equipment in there and that shag carpets to kind of dampen shock.
Oh, for his YouTube channel. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, man. Could, this build's, it is kind of a flex build, to be honest.
Statistically, the shag carpet and for some reason pink actually does make a difference when it comes to insulating camera equipment. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I noticed on the hood he has rescue on there too. You sure this isn't one of your buddies?
I don't know this guy. I'm surprised I don't, honestly. He has rescue on the hood?
Yeah, right in between the antlers there. Like right where my pinky.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to be honest. I think this has to do a little bit more with him saying rescue the elk, like no more elk hunting.
Could
rescue this FJ from me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's screaming, please, please.
Well, so this is everybody's favorite part of the episode is now that we've broken down what the vehicle is, what is it actually worth?
So
right?
I haven't said it has 133,000 miles on it.
Yes.
So not high mileage, but higher mileage.
Yeah, not low mileage. This has obviously been somebody's daily.
I mean, in my mind, 200,000 miles. And then, I mean, there are certain rigs that I take out of this, like 80 series Land Cruisers and certain, Camrys. 200,000 miles is really kind of end of life for most vehicles. You can run them past that. To me, that's when I say it's time to get rid of it.
I mean, we've got a Ford Festiva. We're going to gamble. It's got 250.
We're gambling it.
It's a good point. So $300 car.
I'm saying it's end of life.
Yeah.
Gambling is shooting it. That's a Valhalla. We're shooting flaming arrows as it floats away.
Sure. Yeah.
That, in my opinion.
Jay, do you see much in the way of overland vehicles over there in Arizona?
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff to do out here. In fact, I've seen a lot of those out here more so than even in Michigan, actually. And that makes sense, right? Because we're right by, California, Mexico, New Mexico. This is the valley. There's terrain all over the place.
Got a lot of national parks out there too, don't you?
A lot of national parks. I don't know about this thing though, man. It was cool, but I did what I always do. I went and did some comps. And there's a lot of vehicles priced similar or less. For me, I don't know if I'm obviously not the person to buy this, although I don't mind flexing a little bit, but I would probably flex. Like, I would make it look, I would have to wrap it in black and just make it look like overly badass to kind of substantiate the purchase.
Yeah.
But, if this guy has all the original parts, maybe in CarPlay, but if he doesn't have that, I'm out.
What would you, how do I word this? Because I'm personally thinking if it were 400 horsepower, if he was like, I've got the supercharger kit and it's on a built motor and I've got the small pulley and I had it dyno tuned, so it's proven to make 400 horse at the tire, that might entice me a little bit more. Although having stuff modified like that is a double-edged sword, because in some cases it lowers the value of the vehicle, right? So if we're just going with a base value on this, Coy, I'm sorry, once again, you said you paid 24?
I paid 26 for mine.
26 for yours, but that's the Trail Teams edition, which is highly sought after.
And mine is 3 years older than this one. But the value on these since 2014 when they quit making them, the value has increased. I think
It's a scarcity thing.
What's that?
It's a scarcity thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has the best resale of any used vehicle in America for several years in a row now. So honestly, to me, the supercharger actually it pushes me away, because I just go, if a normal FJ, you figure you get 240,000 miles out of it with little to no problems, and then I supercharge it, that's not going to make it more, it's going to make it less. This has 130. So I'm looking at, I got 70,000 miles of good life on this thing. That's not that much for 40 grand.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Always working. Unlike my turbo, it's not always working. It's working when I want it to.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah. So to me, this thing's worth low 30s. That's what it would go for, I feel like. At a dealership, Toyota is trying to buy these back from a lot of guys. They throw a lift kit on them and they sell them for absorbent amount of monies. It's sad. I think that honestly he'll get 33 for this. Probably no problem.
Interesting. What do you think, Jay?
I got to go with the man Coy. I wasn't getting a good feeling about this. For somebody who doesn't really know much about these, and listening to him kind of go down your review on the features list wasn't necessarily selling me the vehicle. I can't go any higher than 32, 33 as well. Like, someone's going to want to have this color combination, and they're going to want all these extra things, and they're going to take some of the stuff off and sell it.
Yeah, 40 grand. That's, whew. I mean, you're getting into used Raptor territory,
Yeah.
Wait. We got a recording camera. So after we get off this call, I'm going to write down some numbers here, and I'm going to hit the dealership up and ask them what they'll take.
Yeah.
Open the camera.
So as per usual, I'm going to come in lower from you guys, and it's simply because of the supercharger kit. The supercharger, even though it's not adding a lot of power, it is adding boost. It's adding more air. We don't know what the fueling situation is. We don't know what the ECU is doing. And I don't know how this thing has been driven. I mean, honestly, this dude could have supercharged it and thought, now I'm driving a Mark IV Supra, and now he's rotting it everywhere. And then that is always a concern for me.
So the Magnum supercharger kits, though, they're well sorted. They come specific with the piggy, but like if he bought it from Magnuson, it's all sorted. You just bolt it on and go.
I have no doubt about that, but I have enough hipster friends to know that they're not doing their oil changes in the correct intervals. They're not treating this thing the way it should be treated. If they're losing a bunch of races because they don't have the appropriate amount of traction in the rear end, they're throwing it in 4 high and then launching on pavement. I guarantee it. I'm coming in at a solid 30 on this, and I'm saying 30 strictly because I know that I can pull some stuff off of this, recoup some money, and get it down into the range where I want it to be. A $25,000, $26,000 rig. That's where I'm falling on it.
Fair enough.
Jay?
Yeah, I think for the right person, this is a smoking hot deal for them. But for everybody else, they're going to do kind of like we're doing, low 30s and pull some parts and sell it. Like, it's sometimes you can, there's a point of no return. There's a point of diminishing returns. Even with my NSX, I completely gutted the interior, changed it out, swapped it, front end, everything. And, it's not nearly as valuable to a collector or most buyers in its current, formation configuration, but there's other people who are more than willing to pay for it. It's got to be the right person. So I think this vehicle fits that type of a mold. It's a lot of stuff, and you have to be into everything that it has and really want it that bad for a lower price.
I agree. And listen, if you're out there and you're listening to the show and you're not a trust fund baby and you do know something about these FJs and you disagree with us, or hell, if you agree with us, send us a message. We want to hear about it. Maybe we're way off base. Maybe we're right on point, but do let us know what you think about this vehicle. And of course, every week we are doing these smoking deals or smoking and dubs. If you have one that you want to submit to have us check out and pick apart, do send it our way, because we're always interested in doing that. I'm going to call this a dube personally. What do you think, Coy?
I'm going to do dube on this. Like
At 40,000.
like Jay said, there could be somebody that buys it at 40, but I mean, this guy's trying to recoup what he has in it. And
Jay,
I hate it when people do that.
Dealer dube at 40. Yep, smoking the dube. There it is. It's dubes all around, kids.
Smoking deal or smoking a doobie.
Well, everybody, that is our program. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the show. I want to thank you for telling a friend about the program. If you had fun, if you like what you hear, please do feel free to share the show out. It is what keeps us going. Also, I am wearing one of our t-shirts. I'm going to slide my mic up and out of the way. This is the Apex Predator. It's going to be available for another month, or 21st. So just about a week. Then we're putting this on the shelf. We're going to introduce a new shirt for March. So if you want to get this one, you better order it fast, because it is going out of stock real soon. Jay, I want to thank you so much, man, for coming on and hanging out. We've run real long on this episode, but it really couldn't be any other way, because we're talking to a true car person that has just an enjoyment of the sport and a lifestyle. And I appreciate that about you.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
If people want to find your podcast, where can they find you?
Everywhere, man. Hard Parking Podcast. Look for the logo. It looks like two NSXs backed up against each other. It's kind of a stolen take on a no parking sign. You follow the YouTube, Hard Parking Media. Do a lot of videos that aren't directly related to the podcast, but more ancillary information. Follow me on Instagram, NA2NSX, or J Travels, JHAE_travels. Let me know that you found me on the podcast here, and yeah.
Do go and check him out. He's got some awesome stuff. I follow you on YouTube, Jay. I love your videos about making your own sound dampening boards that you have in your own home studio, stuff like that. It's good. It's knowledge for life, honestly. And I do encourage you to go and check out everything he has going on. And Coy, you're found nowhere, basically.
I'm found nowhere. You can barely get a hold of me if you message the Horsepower Hour page.
No, come on. But if you do message the Horsepower Hour on Facebook or on Instagram at the Horsepower Hour, of course, Twitter is at the Horsepower, it's Horsepower_hour on Twitter, because I'm late on the game with Twitter. And of course, thehorsepowerhour.com. We're starting to get that website up and going. We're going to have lots of cool videos, articles, stuff over there. So please do come and check that out. If you want to get a hold of Coy, that's where you can find him. We know that you want to send hate mail, and we're ready and waiting. So send us that hate mail. I'm ready for it.
Hate me.
Listen, guys, this has been an awesome episode. Jay, once again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really do appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Coy, I'm glad you're here as always. Congrats on getting your power back, my friend.
Yay.
I'll tell you what, buddy, the dependability studies, I never really know what to think about those, but that power pack F150, I want one real bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards it myself.
I am too. We're going to see what happens with the SRT range. Hopefully they keep making the big power stuff.
Be nice.
And I'll tell you, we're going to see you in the Moab, and that's exciting.
Yes.
So all you out there, stay tuned. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And for Jay from the Hard Parking Podcast and Coy Forticus and Masterson Jr. Senior Esquire, Duke of Earl Grey, this is Andy. We will see you next time.